Hello, Phoenix Tribe. Oh my gosh, this is Heather Day, and I am back to give you guys some updates. I have some exciting announcements about actual content, not just promises of content. Oh, and I have just some things to share with you, so many shifts. And I have not been away because I've been stagnant, that is for sure. So gosh, I don't even remember honestly what the last things were. I know I shared a womb awakening intro. And I know I may have shared one that spoke a little bit about embodiment, maybe. I've just had so many things shifting through. And so really where I was when I was leaving my last, this really does follow my journey, my own growth journey. And so when I was leaving my last podcasts for you guys, when I was sharing those, there was a space in the work that I was doing where I felt that there was a thread that was missing. I could see that there was a depth of intimacy with the emotional aspect of these shifts that I was missing, both in myself and in others, which, I couldn't do it with others because I was missing it in myself. And so, of course, my journey took me down the road of being able to explore all of those things, and also to explore the fact that I feel so deeply called, particularly to show up as a light to shine on this path for the masculine, and really walking with what that's going to look like and how I'm going to be showing up in those ways. And for a long time, I was abdicating that role because I had no idea what it was going to look like. And so I kept saying, well, and I would do this with the emotional depth part too. I would say, well, the person who's helped me create these shifts is this person, or, I'm not sure how to hold that space for you as a masculine man because I'm just a woman. And so here's like this thing that you can go and look at, even though nobody's actually doing this work that I know of, and particularly nobody's doing it the way that I'm doing it. I've definitely found my signature thread. I've definitely found my gifts in this now. I've woven them all together for my signature approach to this. So I just want to share a little bit about that journey with you guys and a little bit about what that's culminated in, and hopefully I can do that fairly succinctly. So yes, I found a coach actually named Jenna Ward, and she works in Embodiment in Australia, and she does these coaching programs where she guides coaches. It's a mastermind program for coaches where she guides us deeply into our own embodiment path and helps us to walk that path while also forging that path for us and figuring out how to guide others along that path behind us or with us. And stepping into that practice made so much difference in everything that I was doing. I really feel that so many of the components of embodiment, there were parts of it and the other work that I had been doing with my other mentors, but they weren't moving through the heart space in a way and focusing enough on the emotion, what the emotions actually feel like in our body. And for me particularly, I wasn't putting enough focus on what was happening in my body with those emotions. It was a very directed goal of, okay, we're going to connect to your inner child right now. And what is this inner child feeling? And so some things would bubble up, but it was a little bit disassociated still. And I really, being an Aquarian moon, I processed my feelings through logic. So those feelings that weren't completely shut down, I just processed through logic. I didn't feel them. And so there was really a disconnect around my heart space. And I did feel into this a little bit with energy psychology. The thing that I didn't like about that process was that I couldn't guide it to a very specific situation or a very specific thing. It was always guided. It was always random what was coming up. So one of the very first things that I've shared about why I wanted to move into my own healing journey was because of the ways that I was showing up with my children. I had so much, back then, aggression towards everyone. I was so defensive. And so rather than shutting down being defensive, I was outward. I was more aggressive. And with my children, that was showing up whenever I would get overwhelmed. I would take it out on them. I would yell at them and scream at them, and I could see the wounds that was causing in them, and it was just killing me. And that's what started me on this journey. And when I started working with the embodiment process, I found a layer of rage that I'm a Piscean. I'm a Piscean sun and I'm a Piscean rising. And an Aquarian moon, like there's just not a lot of anger and rage that move through me energetically on a regular basis anyways. I'm very go with the flow. But there was this layer of untapped rage from what I had experienced in my childhood that I had never experienced, that I had never expressed. It was still all bound up within me. And so being able to move through that and really get in touch with that inner warrior and really learn to hold space for that was a huge initiation for me. And it really initiated me in how to help the masculine actually learn how to hold space for their much larger capacities for rage as well, which was one of the levels and layers of resistance that I was having prior to really fully stepping into my work with men, was how I could harness that. How was I going to harness that? Or how was I going to hold a resonance for that? And the truth is that I don't have to actually embody that rage myself. I just have to know how to guide others to creating a safe space to fully express their energies in, which I've learned. And the other thing that came up for me was that, this embodiment process, so many of the women that I see in this realm who work with embodiment, who work with womb awakening, who work with feminine awakening, are working with women. And from the very beginning, almost, I felt this deep call to work with men. And I was just like, I don't know how am I, what role am I supposed to play in that? And through the womb awakening book and the priestess lineage, and just recognizing what the priestess lineage is, but really also through this is, all of this is kind of this nebulous, like, okay, I'm a priestess and I've walked this path and I'm supposed to, now become that path to guide the masculine. The masculine is most inspired by the feminine. It is the feminine that inspires the masculine to be the best version of himself that he can be. But so as the feminine, we've been taught to lead from these spaces of masculinity, just like the masculine has, of talking and doing and guiding and creating, expectations and communicating those expectations, rather than embodying the natural feminine magnetism that is within us, that is in our wombs. When we become embodied, we become magnets. We become so inspiring and magnetizing to everyone around us, but particularly to the masculine, to that polar energy. And through learning these embodiment practices, I've really gained clarity on what this inner sacred union is. I always felt called to guide others on the inner sacred union, but I have a new layer of clarity and intimacy about what that inner sacred union is. And how it actually acts practically in our lives. And the sacred union archetypes, like this is the big thing. I see so many women working on their feminine, and I see so many men working on their masculine and exploring, or men who have abandoned their masculine and become very effeminate, to become very spiritual. But there are these polars, right? And the key is to actually bridge the two, and it starts within us. And so it's recognizing these sacred union archetypes that help us to weave together and to really feel into where our feminine is magnetizing our masculine, and what that feels like, and how our masculine responds, what that looks like. And so, and it really is where it's a feeling, it's a whispering that we get inside when our feminine is magnetizing us toward our soul path and toward our depths. And it's an active, what does it look like that we're doing in our lives when our masculine begins to heed that call. And then we can actually start to see how those archetypes, the sacred union archetypes, are kind of creating this dance where the feminine is slowly opening as we take the correct actions in our masculine to really open her, to create a safe space for her where she feels vulnerable to surrender. And understanding what this looks and feels like within as we're walking and doing this dance within helps us so much to see what this looks like in the real world. It helps us so much to recognize the ways that the masculine and feminine, the roles that we play in the 3D sacred union. So with all of these foundations and all of these new threads, these like juicy threads that just feel so amazing to me, and it just feels so beautiful that it's so practical. And so I have the embodiment tools that I really feel like these tools, this embodiment, these skills of recognizing how to access and hold a container, a safe space for us to experience our emotions in, to really allow that bound up tension to release, to really allow the flow of our soul essence to come through. This is the key. This is foundation to any kind of movement forward. This is where we feel stagnant, is when we've got so much bound up tension from unexpressed emotion within us. And those keys, like that is foundational to what I am teaching in every one of my sessions. It's foundational to what I'm now teaching in all of my programs. It's going to be foundational in all of my workshops, because this is what I want each person that I work with to get and understand, because these are tools that they are going to use day in and day out for the rest of their lives. And so this, I'm like all of my clients, I want to share this with. And then my gifts of service in this is the map, the understanding of how the archetypes weave into this, how our dominant archetypes weave into this, and how our sacred union archetypes weave into this. And so I'm working with both men and women very deeply in this process. I really work deeply with women in really feeling into and embodying their feminine energies. And the feminine energy is, like I've said before, it's so rich and it's so dynamic and it's so magical. And so I still do this and I love this work. I love working so much with women, but I just feel called that my purpose here on earth is as a priestess of this lineage. It's really to show up and shine that light of unconditional love and acceptance and worthiness for the masculine, and to really hold that container for them to explore their emotions and to help them to create their own containers and help them to figure out, to navigate what it looks like to nourish their feminine within. Because I can tell you from what I am seeing and feeling just in exploring my own feminine, the understanding that we get about our life purpose and how to nourish ourselves and take care of ourselves, that we get that depth that we get from connecting to our feminine, makes our masculine direction so much more powerful, because it's aligned action. So when we bring these two together, it just creates this powerful action. And it also brings us out of these programs and conditioning that we have of, striving for money that, listen, money is necessary. And, being able to, travel the world and be able to view the world and spend, it takes money. And these things many of us desire to be able to do, me included. But striving for money from a space of not having it is never going to get it for us. That's just, that's law of attraction 101, right? Striving from a place of lack is never going to get you anything. And so when we come from a space of sharing our gifts from the depth of our soul, and we take action inspired by that, everything else naturally comes. We start magnetizing all of the resources. We start magnetizing everything that we need in order to walk that path. And so, the masculine specifically, because one of their core desires is to provide. And in our society, they're taught, that means go and make money, provide materialistically. And embodied women are not interested in a man providing for us materialistically, especially in this day and age. We are so conditioned to really work to do that for ourselves. It's not about the material. You're never going to connect deeply with an embodied woman based on material and money. You have to be able to know how to nourish that feminine. You have to be able to know how to connect intuitively with that feminine. And the only way to learn that is to do it within yourself first. And so I see all of these men that are like, let me tell you, it's men that are like, let me tell you what an embodied woman wants. And then you look at them and they don't have a partner. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. Like, please tell me again what it is that embodied women want, because I see one right next to your side right now. And yet men flock to these men because they are so desiring to connect to their feminine in their lives, to their women. And Lord knows that women aren't taught how to magnetize men. We're not taught how to step into our power. We're working on it. There's so many women's circles. There's so many womb awakenings that are happening. We're really working on stepping into that. But definitely, I feel called to help men to navigate that within themselves so that, ladies, we can start getting these men showing up for us in these ways that we crave, with this powerful, potent masculine that is so infused with intuitive connection and love and tenderness and vulnerability. So this is the work that I'm now offering. This is the core of all of my programs at this point. And I have completely revamped my website. I have so much information on there for you guys now. All of my, the original workshops that I did at the beginning of the year, there's a divine masculine, a divine feminine, and a sacred union. None of these things include the embodiment stuff, because these are just programs that I released just coming into COVID. And they were really, they're not my greatest work, I would say, but they're out there for free, donation-based, whatever you would like to exchange on a love exchange basis. For those, there's guided meditations, there's workshops, so you can just get a taste of what it looks and feels like. And those workshops I've had really wonderful feedback on. I've had people tell me so many amazing shifts that they've had from these kinds of workshops. And so they're valuable, they're potent, they're valuable. They have really, they're really beautifully laced with transmissions of sacred union and the archetypes. And it's a really beautiful space that's held. So they're certainly very valuable, and they're there for free. But there's a ton of information in there too on this website now about all of the archetypes, the sacred union archetypes, the spirals that we go through, embodiments, all of this stuff. So I also have a blog on there now that has some of my pieces, some poems, and just some things that I've written and shared, just kind of on these topics. And so all of this stuff is found at releaseyourphoenix.com. I've also changed my my Instagram handle. It's now Mermaid Priestess 22. And I have become the face of the brand. So you'll see much more of me and my pictures, and you'll see much more of me posting videos on there. So yes, you'll be connecting more deeply with me as well through my brand, or with my brand through me. Yeah, so I just wanted to get on and just really share. I also I launched new programs, but in order to work with me in these programs, I'd like to meet and contact you first, or have you contact me first, so that we can have a conversation about where it is that you are in your life and where it is that you might be feeling stuck, what you're desiring to call in, and really just get a feel for each other. And if it feels really good for both of us, then we can move forward and decide which program is right for you. So if you're interested just in getting more information, or if you're interested in doing a free consultation with me, go ahead and head over to my website. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. Again, my website is releaseyourphoenix.com. You can follow me on Instagram at mermaidpriestess22. And again, I will be posting this on YouTube as well. And that is Release Your Phoenix on YouTube. So thank you so much for sticking around, for being here, for watching this, for holding space for my journey, for walking this journey with me. I'm so excited to share these new gifts and embodiments with you guys. And I look forward to being more present with you guys in the future.